An excerpt from Dominus Est It is the Lord by the Most Reverend Athanasius Schneider. During those dark years, the Church in the immense Soviet Empire was forced to live underground. But the most important thing was this: the Church was alive, indeed very alive, even though she lacked visible structures, even though she lacked sacred buildings, even though there was a tremendous scarcity of priests. The Church was most alive because she did not completely lack the Eucharist, even though it was rarely available to the faithful, because she did not lack souls with solid faith in the Eucharistic mystery, because she did not lack women, often mothers and grandmothers with a priestly soul, who safeguarded and even administered the Eucharist with extraordinary love, with care, and with the greatest reverence possible, in the spirit of the Christians of the first centuries, expressed in the adage cum amore ac timore, with love and fear. Among the numerous examples of Eucharistic women in the Soviet underground, there will be presented here in the example of three women known personally to the author: Maria Schneider, the author's mother; Pulcheria Cook, sister of the grandfather of the author; Maria Stang, a parishioner of the Diocese of Karaganda. Maria Schneider, my mother, used to tell me that after the Second World War, the Stalinist regime deported many Germans from the Black Sea and from the Volga River to the Ural Mountains to engage them in forced labor. All of them were interned in the most impoverished barracks in the city ghetto. There were a few thousand German Catholics. Some Catholic priests would go to them in the most secretive manner in order to administer the sacraments, putting their own lives in jeopardy. Among the priests who came most frequently was Father Alexij Saritski, a Ukrainian Greek Catholic and bi-ritual priest who died a martyr on October 30th, 1963 near Karaganda. He was beatified by Pope John Paul II in 2001. The faithful affectionately called him God's vagabond. In January of 1958, of Kranoska Mosque near Perm in the Ural Mountains, Father Alexij, from his place of exile, suddenly and secretly arrived in the city of Karaganda in Kazakhstan. Father Alexij worked so that the greatest number of faithful could be prepared for the reception of Holy Communion, making himself available to hear confessions of the faithful literally day and night, without sleeping and without eating. The faithful begged him, "Father, you must eat and sleep." But he would reply, "I can't, because the police can arrest me at any moment," and then many people would be left without confession, and therefore without communion. After everyone had gone to confession, Father Alexij began to celebrate the Holy Mass. Suddenly, a voice resounded, "The police are coming." Maria Schneider, who was attending the Mass, said to the priest, "Father, I can hide you. Let's flee." The woman led the priest into a house outside the German ghetto and hid him in a room, also bringing him something to eat, and said, "Father, now you can finally eat and rest a bit, and when it gets dark, we will flee to a nearby city." Father Alexij was sad because, though all had made their confessions, they could not receive Holy Communion because the Holy Mass, which had just begun, had been interrupted by the police raid. Maria Schneider said, "Father, all the faithful will make a spiritual communion with great faith and much devotion, and we hope that you will be able to return to give us Holy Communion." With the coming of evening, preparations were made for the flight. Maria Schneider left her two little children, a 2-year-old boy and a 6-month-old girl, and her mother, and called on Pulcheria, the aunt of her husband. The two women took Father Alexij and led him for 12 kilometers through the forest, in the snow and in the cold, 30 degrees below zero. The women arrived at the little train station, bought a ticket for Father Alexij, and sat with him in the waiting room. The train was not due for an hour. Suddenly, the door opened. A policeman entered and spoke directly to Father Alexij. "Where are you heading?" The priest was not able to respond out of fear, not for his own life, but for the life and fate of the young mother, Maria Schneider. The young woman herself responded to the policeman. "This is our friend, and we are accompanying him. Look, here's his ticket," and she handed the ticket over to the policeman. The policeman, looking at the ticket, told the priest, "Please do not enter the last car because it will be dislodged from the rest of the train at the next train station. Bon voyage." The policeman exited the waiting room. Father Alexij looked at Maria Schneider and said, "God has sent us an angel. I will never forget what you have done for me. If God will permit it, I will return to give you all Holy Communion, and in my every Mass I will pray for you and your children." After a year, Father Alexij was able to return. This time, he could celebrate the Holy Mass and give Holy Communion to the faithful. Maria Schneider asked him a favor. "Father, could you give me a consecrated host because my mother is gravely ill and wants to receive communion before dying?" Father Alexij left a consecrated host on condition that Holy Communion be administered to the woman with the greatest possible respect. Maria Schneider promised to act in this way. Before moving with her family to Kyrgyzstan, Maria administered Holy Communion to her sick mother. In order to do this, Maria put on new white gloves and with a tweezers gave Holy Communion to her mother. Afterwards, she burned the envelope in which the consecrated host had been kept. The families of Maria Schneider and Pulcheria later moved to Kyrgyzstan. In 1962, Father Alexij secretly visited and found the women in the city of Tokmak. He celebrated Holy Mass in the house of Maria Schneider and another time in the house of Pulcheria. Out of gratitude, this old woman who had helped him escape in the darkness and cold of winter in the Ural Mountains, Father Alexij left her a consecrated host, giving this precise instruction: I leave you a consecrated host. Practice the devotion in honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus on the first Friday for 9 consecutive months. Every first Friday of the month, expose the Blessed Sacrament in your house, inviting for adoration persons who are absolutely trustworthy, with everything carried out in the greatest secrecy. After the 9th month, you must consume the host, but do so with great reverence. And so it was done. For 9 months there was clandestine Eucharistic adoration at Tokmak. Maria Schneider was among those female worshippers. Kneeling before a little host, all the adoring women, these truly Eucharistic women, ardently desired to receive Holy Communion. But unfortunately, there was only a little host, and at the time, many people who desired to receive Holy Communion. For this reason, Father Alexij had decided that at the end of the 9 months, only Pulcheria would receive Holy Communion, with the other women making a spiritual communion. Nevertheless, these spiritual communions were very precious because they rendered these Eucharistic women capable of transmitting to their children, as if with their maternal milk, a profound faith and great love for the Eucharist. The entrustment of this little consecrated host to Pulcheria in the city of Tokmak in Kyrgyzstan was the last pastoral action of Blessed Alexij Saritski. Immediately after his return to Karaganda from his missionary journey in April of 1962, Father Alexij was arrested by the secret police and placed in the concentration camp of Dolinka near Karaganda. After much mistreatment and humiliation, Father Alexij obtained the palm of martyrdom on October 30th, 1963. His liturgical memorial is celebrated on this day in all the Catholic churches in Kazakhstan and Russia. The Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church celebrates it together with other martyrs on June 27th. He was a Eucharistic saint who could educate Eucharistic women. These Eucharistic women were like flowers that grew in the darkness and the desert of a clandestine existence, thus keeping the church truly alive.